Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Friedman-Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Real Life Parenting Podcast. This is Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
Today's podcast is brought to you by BeanersFuncuts.com. Parenting is hard. Haircuts shouldn't be. Visit BeanersFuncuts.com for a location near you. Today, we're speaking with Jessica Janzen. Jessica wears many hats. She is a motivational speaker. She's a small business owner and co-founder of the Love the Lewiston Foundation. Most recently, Jessica is a published author. Her book, Bring the Joy, comes out in May 2020. After losing her son, Lewiston, almost 3 years ago, Jessica decided that she would stop wasting time and get moving on her big dreams. Jessica has a lot to tell us about her book and her work, and we're so thrilled to have her here with us. Welcome, Jessica.
Thanks, ladies. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. Jessica, could you just take a few minutes to please share your story with us and our listeners?
Sure. You can go back pretty far, but I think the easiest point for me to start our story is in 2016. My husband and I have been married for almost 3 years at this point, and we had our second child, our son, Lewiston. He was born healthy pregnancy. I also had a little girl at home. Our kids were 13 months apart, so you can call that Irish twins. And I had quit my job, was kind of starting to maybe start my own business, but then we had this second pregnancy come up really quick. And so just juggling motherhood and the craziness of 2 kids under basically a year. And we went on family vacation to Winnipeg. We vacation in Winnipeg and spend a lot of our time there because that's where I'm from. And unfortunately, on the vacation, my husband had decided to drive home, and I was going to stay for another week because I was able to get some more help. And during that time, our son went completely limp. And I hadn't even really noticed it, which is kind of crazy. But he had been a really colicky baby, way worse than my daughter. And so sleepless nights, literally having to rock him, pat him, bump him, keep him moving at all times until, we'd eventually both kind of fall asleep on the couch. And so I was desperate to do anything. So I had taken him into a chiropractor the day after my husband left. And the chiropractor didn't even want to touch him. She's like, he looks like he's struggling to breathe. His skin's kind of mottled. I think you should take him into the emergency. She's like, don't panic. I'm sure it'll be fine. But, just rather safe than sorry. And so I took Lewiston in, and I literally was not panicked or worried. I stopped on the way. I got a coffee and a gluten-free sandwich because it's like, I'll be at the hospital for a long time. They're going to have gross food. So I was trying to be prepared. And when I finally got in after the first assessment from the nurse, they whisked me back to a room that read resuscitation room. And it was like a scene out of Grey's Anatomy where there was doctors and nurses and people shouting out data and ordering MRIs and CTs and scans and shouting out vital signs. And someone's asking me if I'm okay and where my husband is. And it was such a blur. And we spent the next 6 days there. And we came up with no answers. They talked about Lyme disease. We talked about a vitamin deficiency, and eventually left with no answers. And during that time there, we had asked for a test called Spinal Muscular Atrophy. I'd actually been helping a family in Calgary for the last 10 years, and we had just finished fundraising about $50,000 for a wheelchair accessible van for them. And so I was very familiar with the disease, and my son had a few little nuances that the kids that I had volunteered my time with that my son also had. And it's a simple blood test. So we requested the hospital do it. The hospital drew the blood. They said they sent off the labs. We eventually got released from Winnipeg, flew back to Calgary, and we went to follow up with our family doctor. And on our way to the family doctor, we got a call from Children's saying, hey, we've just seen this file come through. We'd like you to come in. And I said, we're actually headed to our doctors. And they said, your doctor agrees. We think you should come in. We saw our doctors. She immediately said, head straight to Children's. We headed to Children's. And basically, without any further investigation, they were sure that it was spinal muscular atrophy. Reordered another blood test because apparently our labs got misplaced. We went through a whole nother process of redoing all the 6 days of tests that we did in Winnipeg, trying to rule everything out. And it was confirmed August 11th that our son did indeed have spinal muscular atrophy type 1, and they would give him less than a year to live. most children diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA for short, type 1, don't make their second birthday. And Lewiston was declining. And because of his very early diagnosis at only 2.5 months, that's why they gave him such limited time. We spent the last part of 2016 battling for our son's life. At that time, there was no cure or treatment. And so it was literally like a waiting game. And we always said if our son had fight, we would fight. But when we saw that he no longer had fight, that we would agree to let him go. And that happened November 22nd of 2016. After a morning bath, being made extremely comfortable, he took his last breath in mine and my husband's arms at the children's hospice that we have here in Calgary, Alberta. And so it was a roller coaster of a journey. And we felt the love and community and just support from Calgary and beyond. And it was really tough, but we were able to celebrate his life. And out of that pain, we decided to start the Love the Lewiston Foundation. And we decided to celebrate his first birthday. And we wanted to give back to the hospital. And what we planned is just a little kind of birthday party, ended up raising $42,000. And the long and the short of it is that since 2017, May 25th, my son's first birthday, we are on track for this year by May 25th, 2020 to hit $1 million raised for children with spinal muscular atrophy and the Alberta Children's Hospital Foundation. So out of severe pain and hurt and tragedy to create a beautiful legacy and to change the lives of other people that are really hurting.
What a powerful story.
Yeah, very. And you've done so much. It's fantastic. And I, Jessica, have seen some kids wearing sweatshirts with a logo on them, and I think they're yours as well.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the very summed up short version. I could go on and on, but in the interim, we've started a clothing line. The clothing line's called the Lewiston Label, and all the sweatshirts, they're made locally here in Calgary, so cut, sewn, and then greened on. And all of those sweatshirts, there's adults and kids. We have hats, pins, necklaces. All of those are representing a lesson that Lewiston taught us. So they're Lewiston lessons. And so one is called Run Towards the Roar. We have the Lewiston Heart dance party. We're coming out with some new designs in the next couple of months here, which we're really excited about. But we basically wanted to share Lewiston's message, and a really cool way is to see someone wearing a really cool sweatshirt with some awesome branding on it. And people start to say, what does Run Towards the Roar mean? Or you'll be walking and you've got your hat on with the Lewiston Heart, and people are like, oh, love for Lewiston. And we really want to encourage people to live a full life. We're also working on a documentary that will come out in later fall this year with South-Based Creative and a grant from Tell a Story Hive. So we have just decided that we are not going to sit in the pain, but we're going to use it for good. And so whether it's clothing line or a documentary or my book, it has been a busy 3 years, but they've been the best 3 years. And I've really used losing my son's life to give me a platform to take a hold of mine.
Wow. You mentioned your book. How did you decide to start writing a book, and what have you learned from the process?
Oh my. Well, ironically, I started writing the book before we even had children. And it was originally a love story about my husband and I, and just the crazy workings of how, if you would have taken our lives 15, 20 years ago, there's no way that we would be together. Polar opposites, like no common interests, like just so opposite. And we ended up working together. And my husband actually had a severe overdose and was really addicted to drugs and alcohol, and has since totally changed his life around, but was a simple invitation to attend a church service with me on Easter, obviously turned into happily married with 3 children. And so I wanted to share the hurdles that we overcome, share a little bit of my husband's story and how he has changed and fought for his own life. And I wanted to share that. And then when Lewiston passed, I just knew that there was more to our story. And I'm even more passionate today than I ever have been about empowering people to get unstuck and to start living on purpose. And I don't believe our lives have to look the exact same. You don't have to do a documentary and have a clothing line and want to speak and have a book like I do. That makes some people have heart palpitations and make them want to hide in a corner. But that's what I was built to do. And so my goal is to help people live in their power and in their passion. And so I started writing the book more than 5 years ago. It's now since totally changed. And one of our themes throughout our son's life was to bring joy. And I believe that you can bring joy to death. I believe that you can be light even when it's dark. And so that was a message I wanted to spread with other people. So I finally got serious. And right after my son passed, I went to LA with two of my best friends for like oh my gosh, Jess isn't doing well. Like, let's get her out of the city. Her son just died trip. And I ran into an author there. And long story short, you're in a city of however many million people, and the chances that we'd meet in this coffee shop in Venice Beach were just like completely crazy. And he put me in touch with the agency that he uses, and one thing led to another. And so I am self-publishing, which is way harder, no book deal or anything, but we've been pre-selling copies and this community's rallied behind me. And it's been a lot of getting into the zone, putting the headphones in and pretending that no one can find me, and just plugging away at the keys of my computer and making my story come to life. We are officially in the second round of editing. It has been a major grind. And last round of editing, I hated my book. I was ready to refund everyone's like pre-sale copy money and be like, that's it. I'm not writing a book. This was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. But you just get someone to, smack you across the face and say, chin up, you got to keep going. It's going to be hard before it gets easy. And so we're in second rounds, and I'm excited and energized again to keep going. So second and third should be a little bit easier than the first, I'm hoping. But the book, it comes out in May, and I've just learned that you got to put your head down and do the work. I think anyone can publish a book. They've made it super easy now with technology today, but it's an expensive and lengthy process, and it'll be 6 years by the time the book actually is printed and in people's hands.
Wow, certainly something very exciting to look forward to. I don't know if you know, Jessica, Julie and I are also published authors, and it was actually something that we never thought that we would do, but we were encouraged by our community, and it's worth it.
How was the process for you guys? Because right now, like, I've wanted to throw my computer across the room and hope that it breaks into a million pieces. Did you guys feel like that in your writing process?
It's so funny that you said that. When you were telling your story, I was just nodding my head because it really speaks to what you said, living your purpose. And our book is called A Year of Intentional Parenting. And it's about setting that intention and working through it, right? And what you said about bringing the light in the darkness, those are the moments that you need the light the most. And that's really what it was. And especially when you're self-publishing, you just think you've got everything done, and then, there's something else to do, and there's something else to do. It can feel so overwhelming. So we're with you, and it's totally worth it. And especially because you're getting that message out, and you're modeling for everybody who's following you, and for your kids, and for everybody that you're setting a goal, you're setting an intention, and you're working towards it even when it gets hard, because the path gets hard a lot.
Yeah.
I'll share this story with you. A very good friend of mine, she passed away, unfortunately, on the weekend, and she's been a big cheerleader of mine and of our foundation. She had a long, hard, amazing battle with cancer. And I had a box sitting in my office, and I was just going to print her a copy off my computer, but I was just waiting for it to be perfect. And, waiting for it just to have the right words, the right flow, or I didn't want her to have to see a grammar mistake. And so a lesson that I've definitely clung to, especially after this weekend, is progress is better than perfection, and completion, just like saying, I'm going to get this over the line. And there's always going to be things you can change or want to perfect. But sometimes completing the project and just sharing it with the world is far better than sitting on something until you think that it's exactly how it's meant to be, and then you don't end up sharing it with anybody. It'll probably always feel like there's something I want to change or fix or correct, but at some point it's just going to go to the printers, and if there's some grammar errors, it might make my mother cringe, but in the end, I think we all know that you're human, and so those mistakes will be there, and you don't sweat the small stuff.
Well, we're sorry to hear for your loss, and sending hugs and good wishes. But I also want you to know what a gift you gave her, and what a gift you're giving kids. You're modeling to kids that you don't have to be perfect, that it's the process that we learn in. It's not about the product. It's not how we look. It's not what we're wearing. It's the adventure and the joy in life. So, Jessica, can you share some key resources maybe that our listeners don't know about, that could help parents who sadly may discover that their child is chronically sick or who are facing the loss of a child? What are some of the resources they can reach out to?
So I'm based here in Calgary, and I'd have to say we have one of the best medical facilities, hands down, I think, in North America. We attract some of the top talent each year. I work at our radiothon, and they highlight some of the doctors that they've brought in from across the world, essentially, to teach and to lead at Alberta Children's Hospital. I think if you're looking and you have a chronic illness, the best thing that I can do is like, I feel like trust your motherly instinct, trust your gut. We had a neurologist say, I 99% guarantee you that this is an SMA. And me and my husband, we remember it. We high-fived. We're like, phew, we dodged a bullet. This is probably just a vitamin deficiency. And we're going to get him some medicine and he's going to get better in a couple of weeks. And there was just something in my gut that was like, no, like demand the test, ask for SMA testing. And so it was the limp, low tone. And I think you can Google a million things, but one of the most resourceful things that you can do, it can hinder you or it can help you. And for us, it helped us was to reach out to the community and to other parents and say, hey, has anyone experienced this? And you'll be so surprised at how supportive people are and say, hey, my son had similar things and this is what we tested for. And we just found so much comfort and power in that. And then go to your family doctor and advocate and ask for more and fight. And if they're not in alignment, then find somebody that will do the research, even if you think that you're going crazy or they might judge you. We've learned that lesson. It's been so valuable. And we were really fortunate. We had an incredible experience. And I literally say that the people in our healthcare system, especially at Alberta Children's Hospital, are like walking earth angels. The love and attention to detail and how caring they are and wanting to take care of not only your child, but you is incredible. And we used the hospice. We leaned into it. We were there for about 55 days and we were able to kind of live as a family while we were waiting for a child to die, essentially, and have the full resource of nurses and doctors on hand and on staff. And we wouldn't have had that if we were at home. And so there's some amazing resources at the Alberta Children's Hospital that we were really able to lean into.
So powerful the way the community is there for us. And sometimes people are scared to ask for help, but really the moment that you open that door, it's amazing what comes flying back. That's really great to hear.
If I could say anything, it would be one of the biggest things that I try to teach people. And someone hosted a fundraiser for us and it was at a spin studio. And I've been to a handful of, at that point, probably, half a dozen, you go for a spin class or a workout class and you're like, hey, the proceeds are going to help Susie's family or whatever. You don't even think about it. And never in a million years would I have thought that I would be the one standing asking for people to rally behind us. And it's a very humbling experience. But when people said, how can we help? We gave them a list of ways. And I just said, there's no shame in that. And I think when you can be bold enough to ask, people are so good. I think we don't always see that. And so if you can focus on seeing the good in people and saying, hey, we need meals this week. Can someone cut our lawn? People will step up. It was absolutely insane, the support that we got.
So much love. That's just an incredible story. Well, it's not incredible. It is a very believable story. And it's a great story to hear because you're right. Sometimes we're not quite sure that people have our back. And so often they do. The last thing to ask you, Jessica, our podcast, the Real Life Parenting Podcast, we always ask our guests to share a real life parenting tool that they have used in their own families. And I know you have 2 young kids at home. What's a tool that you have that you could share?
You know what? Okay, I'm going to go twofold on this. This is for any of the working parents. So what works for our family, and I think there's a lot of shame around this. So the reason why I'm talking about this is to help any other mom that's maybe struggling to juggle and do it all. If you're still listening to this, you'll know that I take on a lot of projects and I do a lot. And so this year we decided to get a nanny and there's a lot of and it was the best decision for our family because I do have a lot on the go and I have really high expectations and I run at a really crazy pace. But when our nanny is here, she's focused on making sure my kids eat healthy food and that there's groceries in the fridge and that our house is put together and doesn't look like a bomb went off. But then when I'm at home with my kids, I feel like I can actually be present. So that time when my husband and I walk in the door, we really just try to disconnect and actually intentionally do stuff. We sit down and have dinner together as a family every night and talk about our days. And that's what really works for us as a family, is to be intentional about the time that we spend together. And that quality doesn't always necessarily mean quantity. Sometimes it is quantity, but the quality is the most important part for us. And so this is my encouragement to anybody that feels shame, where, people are judgy if you have to put your kids in daycare, whatever it is, that I found a lot of freedom in that. I really struggled with parent guilt and how that would affect me. And I finally let that go. And I feel like it's best for the kids. And I'm a way better mom. I'm way more patient. And I'm sure, as you both know, being a parent is really hard work and it's never done. And my husband laughed. Our kids are great sleepers, but the other night, like both kids, just nightmares, and one was cold and one went to bed and blah, blah, blah. And we were up like 3 or 4 times and we're like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, remember, we signed up for this. And so we just laugh it off. And so my encouragement would be, a tool that would work is, I'm trying not to take anything too seriously over the small stuff, like the spilt milk. The spilt milk means that your kids are healthy enough to be at home to spill the milk. So take it with a grain of salt, learn to laugh in the small stuff. And then the time that you have with your children, just make it count.
Oh, thanks. That's awesome. We really enjoy you taking the time to share your story and your knowledge with us. It's important for you and our listeners, if they want to find out more information about you, where's the best place for them to follow you, Jessica?
I'll give you 3 spots that you can follow us. The first, I always plug our foundation, so loveforlewiston.ca. This year will be our $1 million year cumulative from 2017, and we will always happily take people's money. So I'll put a shameless plug in there for that. We're really proud of the work that we've done and the families that we're helping and the impact that we have here in our province and across Canada. So loveforlewiston.ca. And then if you want to follow me personally, which encompasses the foundation, my book, our documentary, all the crazy projects, and all of my random rants that I go on, you can follow me at JSJanzen, JANZEN on Instagram, or check out my website, jessicajanzen.ca. And I'm there. And send me a DM or send me an email. I'm always happy to connect and help or spread whatever kind of love and joy I can.
Well, thank you for sharing the light here. It's been great to learn more from you, and we look forward to following you in the future.
Thanks again, ladies. It was my pleasure.
Thanks, Jessica.
We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Real Life Parenting Podcast. If you're looking for more real life parenting tools, then please sign up for our weekly Thoughtful Thursday email newsletter. It's free and it's really good. Just visit our website, parentingpower.ca, to subscribe. While you're there, check out our book, A Year of Intentional Parenting. Like this podcast, the book was created to help you feel confident, capable, and calm. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to connecting with you again right here every Monday.